we are in a car I'm extremely excited to get behind the wheel of, and believe it or not, when it comes to 911s, I've only driven turbo ones on the street. This is the 4.0 naturally aspirated motor in this 991.2 from 2018. Now the Porsche 911 is one of those cars that it's known to have amazing PDK, the auto transmission's great, but here's the thing, this one's a manual, and I got in this thing ready to hit some paddles, ready to go. You know, my mindset was, oh, no, smooth PDK transmission going down a mountain road. But then I got in and I saw the gear shifter. I was like, no freaking way. It's gonna be a good day. Pretty much one of the only 911s right now that you can get that's manual is the 911R, which is insanely rare. Pretty much only people that have 918s have those because they got on the list, and there's under 1,000 of those. So with the manual transmission being gone, it's really cool that I finally get to drive one like this. So this car is actually owned by Jay Kobelka, and he actually has a really interesting way of life, I guess you could say. He actually breeds custom snakes, or basically breeds designer snakes, as you can say. So if you think about it, you basically go to him, you come with an idea, and he goes, I can make it happen or I can't make it happen. And in the end, you have this beautiful animal if you're into reptiles, and he's made a living out of it, and he's been doing it 18 years. He did what he loves, he's still doing what he loves, and he ended up with the Porsche GT3. I think that's a huge testament to anybody who wants to do something unique or niche or anything. There is a market for pretty much anything. So people come to him with these wild, crazy ideas, and I just love that he's honest about it, and he will make it happen. Sometimes it takes a decade to develop some of these reptiles. So I just want to point out there, this is not a sponsored video. I just think it's a super, super cool way of making a living. I think it's unique, and I know nothing about snakes. So it's one of those things where I got the email, I was like, say what? You know what? I think this bright color kind of goes along with what he does for a living. I think it's just one of those things where this color isn't for everybody, but it's loud, it's flashy, just like the snakes he breeds. The reason you probably haven't seen a lot of 911s like this is that it's birch green, which is a one-of-one color. So he basically picked the sample out, and then you make a custom color, and Porsche goes, yeah, here you go, go for it. The last 911 I drove was actually a 911 Turbo S with a bunch of upgrades on it, made 700 wheel horsepower. It was bananas. This, it feels like a driver's car in every way. I know that's a term that everybody uses all the time. It's a driver's car, but every time I get behind the wheel of the 911, I understand it, I get it. Because when I was a little kid, you know, I saw Porsches and I was like, yeah, but they're not like Batmobile cool, like a Lambo or a Ferrari that captures your imagination. But the older I got, the more I understood Porsche. And when I finally got behind the wheel of Porsches, I finally was like, oh, so that's why nobody ever goes back after driving Porsches. Also, the last Porsche I drove was the Porsche Taycan, which is in no way like this, except the handling. The Taycan handled incredibly well and felt actually a lot like this, just had a big back seat. Well, some of the 911s have back seats, but it's usually for like insurance purposes and all that good stuff. Best thing about these naturally aspirated motors in the Porsches is the red line. Most of them rev to 9,000 RPM. So you're basically in a rear engine, powerful 500 horsepower Honda. The reason I say that is because you can kind of compare the experience to a VTEC and a S2000 or something like that, but it's way more aggressive, way more violent, it sounds way better. But revving to the sky, that's why I'm making that reference. Talk about the whale tail on the GT3. I absolutely adore that Porsche never shied away from doing these giant spoilers on these cars. And plus, the 991 in general is just a more aggressive, masculine car compared to the previous 911. If you don't know what you're doing in a rear engine car, it's a little strange at first because the tail will kind of kick out in a different way because the weight distribution goes over the wheels in a different way than a front engine or a mid-engine. The cool thing about it though is once you do learn how it works, it becomes an advantage because with all that weight on the rear wheels, bam, you're good to go, you have traction. Also, for some reason, Porsche horsepower always feels like faster horsepower. I remember back in the day when they released one of the 911s that made 375 horsepower or something around there. I was like, why would somebody buy a car that's like $200,000 or $150,000 with 300 something horsepower? Then I rode in it and I was like, this is different. And maybe this is me speculating, maybe it's because there's not much drivetrain loss because it goes straight down. But I absolutely love the seating position in this car because it just feels like you're ready to have a good time. But once you're in, you're locked in. The GT3 has always been kind of the pure one to me. The GT2 is the faster one, of course, but for like the very stereotypical more old school feeling Porsche driving experience, the GT3 is definitely the one. But the brakes obviously are massive. Up front, giant piston brakes. In the back, giant piston brakes, center lock wheels that really makes it feel race car like, and they look a million times better. I mean, look at that. You rev match and it's just like, it's so satisfying. Plus the boxer motors in these are just so smooth. I hate to say it, but a lot of people like to say that the Subarus are a lot like the Porsche motors. Or like, it's just not the same. It's just not. These just have a buttery smoothness that the Germans have just figured out. The best sounding car ever. If you have basic driving dynamics down, it does everything that you possibly want. That was third and I still had 2,000 RPM left. Like, there's so much room. And it's a very harmonic sound, right? You're driving around, you roll through the gears, and it's this elegant sound going through the trees. It doesn't have like a violent sound like from a muscle car or anything like that. The muscle cars sound good in a different way, right? Or a V8 car. For a V8 car, you get this loud rumble and it's like, oh, this thing's mean. This thing is like elegant and precise, but it has liveliness to it. It doesn't feel numb. Like you drive an R35 GTR, for example, the stereotypical, it's a robot, right? It does everything you want, it handles amazing, but you don't have this personal connection as much unless you build them to oblivion, right? These, a lot of people get these and just leave them alone, and that's what makes Porsche so great, is that you get the car, it's done. You don't have to touch anything, and it's literally perfect. Also, did I mention this has rear wheel, wow, I can't say that right, rear wheel steering? That's a tongue twister. So when you let off the gas, like, it doesn't have that jarring feeling a lot of cars have where it starts bucking and everything like that. You let off the gas, it is just this very subtle drop in the RPMs. It's not like you're going off or having turbo lag, right? There's none of that. It is the end-all be-all driver's car in a lot of ways, because I'll give you an example. I go on these road trips every year called adventure drives, and on adventure drive, guess what cars basically never break out of all the exotic cars that are on the trip? Porsches. Porsches typically don't have any problems for the most part, and it's typically under warranty if they do have problems. All right, 3, 2, 1. Impeccable. Holy smokes. Because unfortunately, a lot of the times, you'll get a Brembo brake package from someone. It's like a roller coaster going down that hill. You get the Brembo brake packages sometimes, they don't put the right pads in them. So then you just have fade, and then you're like, what's the point, right? You get 3 or 4 hits on a mountain road and you're getting loss of pedal feel. This feels exactly the same all the time. And I do not want to get out of this thing because it's amazing. There's a reason why Porsches are so expensive, right? You might not understand it until you get in one. And then when you finally drive one, you're like, oh my God, I finally understand it. It sucks that they're so expensive, right? But you understand it. So you get in a Lamborghini, you're like, oh, you know, I'm having a great time. I'm making a lot of noise. I'm flashy. The Porsche focuses on one thing, and that's the driver. And it's all about the experience. This actually has a titanium exhaust, but more like think axleback, and that's why we're getting that scream up top. But believe it or not, zero drone. It doesn't feel like you're bothering the entire world driving around. And if you notice, I'm cruising behind traffic. They have no idea. You know, they have zero idea what I was doing a second ago. See, nothing. We're just cruising. It's not until I'm 100% throttle, that's when it starts really opening up. I also want to add, the clutch feel is actually extremely light. Going from a first gear, it's Indy Miata light. It's not a heavy clutch. It's not intimidating. You can figure it out. Look, just, you find right there. That's the engagement point. At the end of the day, if you got the money, man, my bike, if you got the money, man, it is hard to argue with this car out of everything I've ever driven. What do you guys think about the 991 GT3? Oh my God. And on that note, I upload every Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday. And I will see you guys next time. Take it easy. Have a wonderful day. Goodbye. This video is brought to you by Patterson Car Care. Get double of premium original detail product for half the price. Head over to PattersonCarCare.com or go to the link in the description below.